Hello and welcome to Reflections. I am Brom Gayoso, your host. We are broadcasting via Futee TV, the home of the future on television. You can find us on Roku TV, on Apple TV, and on Fire TV. You can also find us as an app on the Google Play Store and on the Apple App Store. And if you're using the internet, our web browser is Futee.tv. So first and foremost, thank you so very much for your being here with me and my guest today. I know your time is very, very important, and I'm the guy who will make sure it is invested wisely. Today is a special show where we pause, ponder, and propel forward the stories that shape our lives. Today, we mark a momentous occasion, the launch of the Circle of Life, a groundbreaking educational campaign that is set to touch every stage of human existence. From the miracle of new life to the grace of saying goodbye, this initiative promises free, world changing resources to empower families everywhere. So, joining me today is the visionary behind it all, Deb Dietz, founder of SMB Digital Education. She's also co founder of Futee TV. And now it's time for me to welcome Deb to the show. Hi, Deb. How are you doing today?
Hey, Ron, great to see you. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for your being here. This is fantastic. It's the launch of the campaign, so Deb, it's really an honor to have you here on the launch day. So you took time away from the busyness of your workday just to be here. So please tell our viewers what sparked this beautiful full circle vision.
Wow, Ron, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today to share this with everybody. It's very humbling for me. It's also very exciting. The Circle of Life was born from my own personal journey through pregnancy, parenting, career pivots, caring for aging loved ones, and facing loss head on. And all through that life journey, I saw a lot of gaps everywhere. We have expectant parents who are overwhelmed. You know, expecting a baby is a beautiful thing, but it also can be overwhelming. We have kids who are struggling with reading and math. You can't watch a news show these days without, hearing about the struggles and challenges that our children are experiencing. We have teenagers who are really struggling and really lacking in life skills education, the kinds of education that will help them grow to be, happy and healthy adults. We've got adults who are in the business world, either entrepreneurs, business owners, maybe they're career professionals looking to advance in their careers, and they need business fundamental education. And there are many families out there that are battling illness, caregiving for loved ones, and then facing, the end of their journey, death and dying with dignity. So, we can't fix life, right? But we can equip people to navigate it, and we're doing that through online education and training. So today I'm really excited because we're going to talk about the Circle of Life free education platform. And one thing that I know about you, Ram, and the work that we've done together, we do a lot of shows together, and we talk about a lot of topics. But yeah, and that's very, very important to share those messages. But today we're launching a campaign so that we can have a real positive impact on everybody's life's journey.
Well, folks, before I get going, if you look at the corner of the screen, you're going to see a QR code in there. So if you're looking for more information, just scan the QR code. The QR code is going to be up and running throughout the show. So you can gather more information by just pointing your phone in there and clicking, and you get the information that is posted on Indiegogo. Well, let's just continue. So Deb, first and foremost, I really, really, really love that. It's holistic, it's human, and with the fundraising launch today, I think that's why you're here, right? So we're diving deep into why this matters. And folks, the Circle of Life is a comprehensive online education platform, and I got the perks, I got the preview, so I know that it empowers individuals at every stage of life with essential knowledge and information. In essence, all the necessary skills needed for every stage of life, from cradle to grave. And Deb, this is really incredible. The effort is comprehensive and it's backed by hard data, experts in the field, patient advocates, all those people will help us navigate each and every situation, with newfound confidence. And we all need to face the challenges of life. So why not doing it together? So today is the launch campaign of this impactful project, and today is why we're speaking with Deb. She has a mission to equip learners with practical tools, whether fostering emotional intelligence, financial literacy, or, dignified end of life planning. Her mission is to ensure everyone, everywhere can absolutely thrive. And she's here to ask for your support. And we will dig deeper to understand what is this effort, its importance, and how you can get involved. So, okay, Deb, let's go back to you. I think you have a video for the launch campaign, don't you?
I do. And why don't we take a quick look at it? And I think you'll like it.
Let's take a look. Oh, Deb, you're a gifted film producer. This is absolutely beautiful. I loved it.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad you liked it. We put a lot of heart and soul into it. And of course, we're talking about the life's journey, right? Circle of life from beginning of life to the end of life. So trying to portray that in a 30-second commercial is kind of a challenge, but there you go.
Okay, Deb, now I have to put you on the spot. How do you do the magic? Because you usually teach like 4-hour long, 8-hour long courses on SMB Digital Education. How could you cram everything into 30 seconds? What's your secret?
I don't know. I just trying to just really focus on the, really what the key areas are of the educational platform, and just put some music to it and some great imagery. To really kind of showcase what we're looking to accomplish here, with our campaign.
Oh, and it's absolutely beautiful. So let's go back and rewind, and let's start at the beginning. So let's start with the expectant parents. So in a word of this quick advice and endless apps. So why should we prioritize the structured education here? So what's the real impact of education for expectant parents?
Absolutely. This is the pregnancy and birth is the beginning of the life cycle, right? And so that's where we start with the Circle of Life campaign. And pregnancy is a beautiful thing. It's transformative, but without guidance, it can also be terrifying. And so what we found is that studies show that prenatal education slashes fear and anxiety. There's a lot of fear and anxiety regarding pregnancy, regarding childbirth, certainly regarding pain and during childbirth. And we want moms out there, potential new moms and expectant parents, to feel empowered, not overwhelmed. And so what we're finding through the research that we do is this type of education, both the prenatal and the postpartum education, cuts risks like gestational diabetes, really has a positive impact on postpartum depression, infections, with the ultimate goal being you've got healthier babies that are being born, moms that have less risks associated with their delivery. It leads to healthier babies being born, fewer fetal and miscarriages, and lower postpartum depression rates compared to routine care. So you've got certainly your routine care of seeing your physician, your obstetrician prior to your delivery. But if you think about it, you're only spending maybe 15 minutes with your doctor every month as you go through your pregnancy. And so you don't get a whole lot of information. You may also take maybe a parenting class on an afternoon on a Saturday. So it's not a lot of information that you're getting. And we're really focused on arming these expectant parents with the information that they need to know about the entire prenatal and postpartum journey, so that they will feel empowered, maybe have better, more effective communication with their healthcare provider. And we're just really hoping that by offering this kind of education, that parents will, on day one, will feel more prepared. Everybody will be happier from day one. And our campaign is going to really focus on bringing these experts to develop the education. So we've got maternal and infant care experts, people who have worked with thousands and thousands of babies on everything from understanding each trimester of your pregnancy to sleep training your toddler. So that's a long journey, right? From the minute you find out your pregnancy test is positive to training your toddler on how to sleep through the night. And there's a lot to know in between those two events. And so we believe that's going to be a necessary part of that journey. And we want to provide instruction and education to everybody out there. And we have a great deal of content to be able to offer them.
How wonderful. And folks, just to remind you, yeah, she mentioned you spent 15 minutes with your provider. Yeah, we're spending just a few minutes with Deb today. But if you look at the top corner of the screen, you're going to find the QR code. So if you need more information about SMB Digital Education and this beautiful effort, just scan the code that is here on your screen and you'll find more information. So, okay, Deb, let's continue the conversation. So this is a campaign and you're here to ask people for support. So what is really the value that you bring to the people who are supporting this cause? So for your donors, what value do you bring?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that probably the greatest value here, Ram, is that we're bringing the experts to the table to provide the educational instruction. And so I've had a lot of people say to me, oh, are you in your office coming up with these great ideas and, using AI to develop the content? No, these are real world experts. These are people that are subject matter experts. They're experienced with years and years in the industry. And they're going to help us develop this cradle to grave education on those topic areas. And so what we're asking for is that the gifts that our donors will provide to us is to allow us to gather exactly the right experts in those topic areas. And they're going to help us kind of turn some of these statistics into stories that will save families, at the end of the day, save them stress, save them heartache. And one donation, in fact, could reach thousands of people worldwide with this kind of information and education. And because Futee TV is available, the educational content and videos will be available on any connected device. You've got women who are expecting a baby in the most remote parts of the world will have access to the education. And so this is really, really important because, again, we're an organization that follows trends in the world. And certainly from an education standpoint, what we find certainly in the pregnancy to parenting area is that we have women in sub-Saharan Africa, remote parts of the world that are suffering, and the statistics are very concerning. You have 300,000 women in sub-Saharan Africa who are dying in childbirth every year. And just think about that for a minute. 300,000 women in sub-Saharan Africa and millions of babies are dying. And so there's a real need out there to provide access to the information, to this education. And that is something that is fueling my fire, is to bring on those experts in everything you need to know from prenatal and your postpartum journey, and make that education available to women wherever they are in the world. And as if they've got a connected device, then they have the ability to watch those videos, and hopefully it'll have a positive impact on them and their childbearing years,
Actually, so folks, I'd like to share. So I had the opportunity to watch the entire educational platform, Pregnancy to Parenting. It's absolutely beautiful. And folks, it's not just to think about, people displaced elsewhere in the world, but here in America as well. And Deb's not telling you this, but I had the opportunity to speak with her at several different occasions. and she made this entire platform available, free of charge to teen pregnancy programs. So here in the US, and if you know anyone who is running a teen pregnancy program, feel free to reach out to Deb, and Deb will make sure that you get free access to this wonderful resource. So we're talking a lot about the pregnancy to parenting, which I absolutely love. But what really happens next? So how do you plan to address the next stage of life, namely elementary kids, literacy? Now we all heard the headlines, but paint the picture for us, Deb. Uh,
Absolutely.
why is this now a never moment? Why is
You
this
know,
important now?
this is such a, I'm so glad that you're asking about this. This is something, again, another passion of mine is you can't watch a news show without, reading something about elementary age children who are struggling in school, struggling with, basic, the fundamentals of reading and math. And that I think there's a statistic out there that says you've got, I think, 34% of fourth graders read below grade level, and so that's in the fourth grade, and by the eighth grade the numbers are pretty much consistent. That's not encouraging for our young people. And so and then it actually even became worse with the pandemic happening. Reading scores for 9-year-olds dropped by 5 points. It was like the biggest dip in decades, and really left kids half a grade behind in school. And it's really not much better for math. You have proficiency that's plummeted, and starting out, kind of behind the proficiency levels starts to, create maybe, some other struggles as they appear later in life. And so we're really looking at reaching kids in this elementary school age group with helping with skills to help them boost their reading and math literacy rates. And we're going to do this in a way working with educators, childhood education experts, reading and math experts. And we're going to be creating content that makes it fun for kids to learn. And so, and try to get to them, at a very young age. So if we can provide, and I kind of look at this as being an intervention strategy for kids. So if we can reach kids when they're young, third grade, fourth grade as an example, that sets them up for success later in life, and even as they go through their teen years. So it's really a passion project here, is to, be helpful to our kids, help them unlock maybe a happier, more robust future, more successful future, better jobs. We find out the kids that perform well in school, there's a reduction in crime rates. And so our videos with our educators will make I call it phonics and fractions. We're going to make phonics and fractions fun again. And again, it's going to be available on Futee TV, so it can be streamed to kids into their homes globally.
Wow, this is amazing. But I'm kind of impressed by those numbers. I mean, it's not just scores, right? It's the truth of stolen potential. So we can envision our support, scripting lessons that are light up, young minds on every screen. This is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. It's there are a lot of data points out there, and we're someone as educators that really pay attention to trends that are going on in the world. And, nothing, grabs my attention, than seeing what's happening with our kids. And so it's a way of actually taking data and learnings from data and transform that into learning opportunities for millions of learners.
Oh, right. So let's transition into the next cycle of life, the teenager years. Okay. Oh, yes. So those teen years. So they're full of fire and questions and all in that happens in between. So how does the circle of life equip them with life skills? And again, let's focus on the why and the how and the why now.
Absolutely. Teens are sponges for real world prep. And another, interesting statistic is that you've got a lot of kids teenagers who aspire to become business owners and entrepreneurs. And so that they need access to some, kind of real world, kind of the real world, the reality And so we're looking to build a curriculum of education that will help kids build their self-esteem, build their coping skills. We've got teenagers that are facing, they're living a digital life, but with that digital life comes isolation and anxiety. And so what we're focusing on is providing life skills education that can sharpen some of their, these necessary skills like critical thinking and problem solving and emotional intelligence. And we believe that a lot of this education will help minimize some of the mental health risks that teens are facing today. And also think that by doing so will help reduce their stress overload. So we're going to have, again, experts come in on these life skill topic areas and train on these kinds of skills. I mean, there are lots of life skills that teens need to learn: problem solving, negotiating skills, communication skills, financial literacy skills, as an example. So our objective here is to maybe turn confusion into confidence. We want these teenagers and adolescents to be confident adolescents, and so we're going to be garnering the experts to come and help us do that.
Wonderful. Let me put you on the spot because I want to ask a very selfish question. So I want to ask you about my daughter. I have a preteen, a teenager. She is a wonderful young woman. But I have a question. So, folks, Deb is a past board member of NABO, the National Association of Women Business Owners in Chicago, and I know she's very active. But Deb, can you highlight the importance of teaching business skills to young women and those young teenagers who are there? We talk a lot about engineering and math. That's all fine and dandy. But how about bringing business education and business training to those wonderful young women out there who want to be entrepreneurs, but have no role models and have nowhere to turn to? What are your thoughts on there?
I appreciate that very much. Again, you've got a lot of young people are, maybe, looking to move away from the traditional 9 to 5 jobs, and they're intrigued by the notion of entrepreneurship. And so because, the fact that this business education is available online to anybody at no charge, it provides these young people a resource to do research and learn more about it. And again, the more there's that the notion of the more you know. The more you know can help you make life choices for yourself. Maybe as a young person, you have a better understanding of what your options might be. And so that's what I love about the business education that we're hosting on Futee TV. We have a lot of education already on the platform, and always looking to add more. But you may find a young lady such as your daughter who maybe she's thinking about elementary education or being a teacher, but maybe she's thinking about maybe I have interests in specific areas. This is an opportunity to just kind of tap into the educational resource, get some information, and maybe that'll help guide a decision later in life, or a course of education that she may want to pursue. It opens up, it provides options for anybody to think about. The more information that you have about a potential career path, or even your educational path, the more information that you have, you might be able to make good decisions for yourself. And that's really what this is we're going to provide opportunities for people, and options for people, and information for people, so that they can make the right decisions for themselves.
And yes, so it's never too early. So one of my daughter's friends, her name is Helena, and Helena, what she did is she created a business online. She started doing bracelets, and she sold one bracelet on I forgot which website it was, but 10-year-olds, they're business people as well, and if you encourage them, hey, who knows how far down in life she will get. But hey, it's good to start early. So I'm sorry. Let's keep going. Let's step into empowerment, right? So business education for youth and for adults as well. So today is like a gig economy. So why is this important? Why is this educational training and non-negotiable for people now?
To me, I think this kind of education really is a launch pad for independence. And you've got, I think I alluded to it just a minute ago, but you've got about 60% of youth would rather start a business than work a 9 to 5 job. That's a lot. That's a lot of young people, 60%. But they also have the, kind of the reality that they need some level of guidance in order to, pursue that. And so of those 60% of youth, you've got 40% of them that recognize that education is important. And the way that I look at it is that education fuels entrepreneurship, especially for women. And it fuels economic growth, it fuels innovation, and it fuels people with access to that kind of education. They can take advantage of it at an earlier age, such as your daughter and her friend. So they can tap into that education and they can start learning some pretty good business fundamentals. Doesn't matter how old they are, that information will be available to anybody. And so, and a lot of that education teaches, basic business management fundamentals. It teaches budgeting and business planning and, ethics and scaling ideas and, marketing and social media. And the way that I look at it is, it turns dreamers into doers. So with that education, you can kind of, really make a lot of that actionable for yourself. So again, they're not just talking about it, they're actually tapping into that resource and then maybe having a better idea of what their future might look like. And so putting all this content and educational videos on Futee TV is going to democratize this education for everybody and free for everybody.
Oh, this is absolutely beautiful. And so, folks, if you are in a high school or a youth program and you'd like to get access to all this inventory of educational videos for free, please reach out to Deb. And again, we only have a few minutes with Deb today, but if you click on this QR code that you see on the screen, you can get more information about an SMB Digital Education and this effort and how you can support it. By the way, Deb's making it all free because, of course, she's asking for you and I to support this effort, and that's why it's actually free, right? So, but again, what you're doing here is you're helping create the next wave of leaders, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's move on and let's talk a little bit about the later years, right? So let's shift to from Windows Way, aging, caregiving, realities of dementia and Alzheimer's, right? So the data here is absolutely daunting. Please walk us through it.
Absolutely. We're kind of moving forward in the life cycle now. We talked about babies and we talked about, elementary school age kids and teenagers. We talked about adults and business education. But right now in the world, we have some daunting statistics when it comes to dementia and Alzheimer's. And we have right now in the US, there are 7 million people over the age of 65 who are living with Alzheimer's today. And so just think about that for a minute. That's 7 million people in the US with Alzheimer's. And the numbers, the statistics are frightening. That number is going to double to 14 million in the next 30 years. And so that's tragic and terrible. But then you start looking at kind of the ecosystem around the patients who are suffering from this disease. And you've got family caregivers. There are 12 million family caregivers in the US who are caring for their loved ones who have Alzheimer's. And probably one of the most eye-opening statistic is that these 12 million caregivers are logging 18 billion unpaid hours every year caring for their loved ones. And I think they're about 66% of these caregivers are living with the person that they're caring for. And so that is, and they're burning out fast. So, the thinking here is that education will help, kind of bridge that burden. It eases, again, the more right? It provides access and just an awareness to help support early detection, maybe getting support earlier rather than later. Being a caregiver is incredibly isolating, especially if you're cohabitating with your loved one that you're caring for. You have to be there, 24/7. And so we're going to be bringing on experts in dementia and Alzheimer's. We're going to bring in neurologists and neurosurgeons and neuropsychiatrists and the healthcare team, practitioners and caregivers. And we're going to teach kind of the reality of the disease and what caregiving really looks like. And so we're going to talk about the science, certainly, behind the disease, but we're going to also talk about, early warning signals and daily struggles. And we believe that this kind of education will provide relief for families everywhere.
Yeah. So, Deb, are you planning to have some sort of a dialogue? So, I love the fact that you're bringing, physicians, nurse practitioners, caregivers, but families as well. I mean, talk about, a little bit about, the patient advocate angle. Are we having people describing what, their daily lives are and their struggles, and, probably getting advice on how to overcome those hard moments?
Absolutely. So there's going to be a real focus here on supporting those caregivers. And to the point I made earlier about it's a very isolating thing that or experience that caregivers are undergoing. And but there's kind of that notion of there's safety in numbers, and that if you have the communal support that you need, so that maybe you're less inclined to burn out, you get the relief. Taking care of the caregivers is critically important, and we're going to make sure we bring on those resources, because that's as important as it is to care for those that are ill. It's important for those that are providing the care, so that they are able to, because it's a struggle, and so we want to help those that have the illness, certainly, but those that do care for them and love them.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to ask you a different kind of question. More often than not, so we talk about, working mothers or like moms. So they work outside the house, but they get home, and usually, all the load, the workload of keeping the home falls into the mother. And more often than not, women are the ones who are the caregivers for elderly people. So we're talking about, I don't know, how many hours of unpaid hidden labor that is in there. And I can certainly see the issue of the burnout. And folks, most of us are in the sandwich generation. We have kids and we have
Right.
elderly parents, and so this is hard. It hits families very, very hard. But I'm kind of shocked to see we don't think about it, but the hours of hidden labor, this is shocking.
Isn't that a that to me is probably the biggest shock of all here, when I looking at the research and putting the plans together for the type of curriculum that we want to and bring those experts in. But it's we feel it's our responsibility. Actually, it's our mission. This is something that is the campaign is very mission driven, is to provide the level of support. And a big part of that support is education and access to resources, so that you don't feel so alone. So caregivers get the help that they need as well. And so we're taking kind of a holistic view of this disease and the caregiving component. And it's interesting. A lot of people think that and myself included, which I'll talk about in a minute, is that some of the symptoms and things that you're witnessing with your loved one is a due to aging, like a normal aging process. And you have to kind of understand the difference between what is a normal part of aging versus what is not, and what are the signs you need to look for. And that's why I'm really excited about bringing this type of education forward to people, so they have access to that information to help guide them forward, and make sure that they're reaching out to healthcare practitioners sooner rather than later.
Got it. So now, to complete the circle of life, so the death and dying part of it. So death and dying with dignity. That's how you call it. So in
Right.
this one, I found it's really profound. So how does education change the narrative here?
It's that's a great question. It's really about regaining control, Ram. You've got there are death prep programs, preparing for death and dying. But what we find is that it actually that kind of education and training really has a positive impact in shifting attitudes. There's a stigma, right? There's a stigma about aging and getting older. There's a stigma about disease and death and dying. But we're seeing that attitudes are shifting positively for most of the people that are participating in those educational programs, because it reduces fear. And fear is fear of the unknown it's a real thing. And so if the education can limit or minimize some of the fear, it's never going to go away. But if it can minimize some of the fear around end of life planning, end of life care, what to expect, then and then that's an important objective to have, and that's certainly part of our mission. And so we find that this kind of education is going to foster psychosocial growth, help people honor wishes of those that they're caring for. It also helps to ease grief, family grief. And like I said, it's often a taboo topic. People don't necessarily talk about this. But we're going to bring in the experts. We're going to bring in, ethicists and hospice providers, palliative care providers. They're going to talk about end of life planning. We're going to make sure that if you're in this situation with a loved one, that you can ensure a dignified goodbye of your loved one as their life comes to an end. And we want to do this in a way that is providing, bringing on those experts, those who are practicing, professionals in death and dying, hospice providers, palliative care people, caregivers themselves, and putting all this available and having free access on Futee is really, really important to me, because this, again, circle of life, beginning of life to the end of life, is, and never, the life cycle always continues. There are always babies being born. There are always people that are approaching the end of life wherever they are in the world. And so again, I can't focus enough or emphasize enough that, our mission here is to provide access to this information, and Futee helps us do that.
Wonderful. Yes. So, folks, just a quick reminder. If you go online and you look at our QR code here, just click on the QR code. It will connect you with SMB Digital Education, with Deb Dietz and her wonderful mission and how you can be a part of it. So, from fear to farewell with grace, that's the amazing part. And, folks, your hands will really be scripting peace for the final life chapter for a lot of people.
Right.
Okay, so Deb, I wanted to kind of I put you on the spot once again. And so I know you're not just babbling about stuff, so you really are here on a personal mission. Could you please tell us your story and how you decided to develop this circle of life education? So what was your spark?
Oh, wow. Thank you for this question. This is profound for me. My husband Charlie and I were married for 40 years, and he passed away 2 weeks ago. So this is real for me. This is raw for me. And for the past 4 years, he battled with dementia, and he was ultimately diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And together we went through this journey where his cognition continued to deteriorate, and he didn't remember much of anything that transpired over the 40 years that we were married. And people say a lot what they know about Alzheimer's and dementia, and I'm sure a lot of people kind of have heard that patients like this will have very poor recent memory, but their memories are better for for years prior. In Charlie's case, Charlie didn't remember he didn't have real recent memories, nor did he have long-term memories. So so the 40 years that we were together, he doesn't remember much of those 40 years, which is, very, very difficult, certainly for him and certainly for me. He didn't remember that we had been married. He didn't remember me, my name. He didn't remember how long we were married. He didn't remember that we had a son together. And he had numerous hospitalizations for long periods of time. So in addition to the dementia, he had in the last 6 months of his life, he had 4 long-term hospitalizations. He had infections. So he was, battling infection and with, many courses of antibiotics in a hospital bed. This first hospitalization, he was literally in the hospital for a month. And so he had infection, he had dementia, and while being in the hospital for such a long period of time, he also had something they called hospital delirium, which just exacerbated the dementia. And so he spent a lot of time in the neurocritical care unit. He was, once he was improving and they were able to reduce the infection, because he had spent so much time in the hospital, he had to take physical therapy and occupational therapy, speech therapy, because it really impacted his communication and his motor skills. So he went through this maze of diagnostics. He went through a maze of treatment. And it took us a really long time to get a diagnosis for him. It took us many, many months, actually, to get that diagnosis. And so, when he was actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it's a terminal illness, right? So I knew that he wouldn't survive this. And so through this experience with him, I learned a lot about denial. I learned a lot about fear and grief and caregiving and advocating, about patience, and about death and dying. So my personal experience is very recent. He was ill for about 4 years, but again, it really cascaded, certainly over the course of the last 6 months, when he started with the infections and the long hospitalizations, and then ultimately, it just kind of hit me one day when he was, was moving into hospice care, and I realized what I didn't know, about his illness. I thought I knew a little bit about dementia, but it turned out I really didn't. I didn't understand much about the illness. I didn't understand about the medical interventions. I had no understanding of the diagnostic process and just the process that patients go through to be diagnosed. I had, some experience with death and dying. My father passed away 12 years ago. He was in hospice for 3 days, not a long period of time. And I lost my mother a year ago. So I had some recent experience with death and dying with my mom. And, we had already been, kind of started the educational video development, the educational components of Futee with the beginning of life. And so we started several years ago, actually, on the pregnancy and parenting education. We had a lot of education about business education, because I've been in the business world for all of my career. So we had developed a lot of business education content, but it really hit me that SMB could have an impact on helping people navigate the entire life's journey from the beginning of life to the end of life. So we had content for the beginning of life. We had content already established on the kind of the adult years of, business and your professional life. But it really kind of hit me because I learned a lot during Charlie's illness, and me being a caregiver for him and realizing what I didn't know. And I so he was actually the inspiration behind the Circle of Life. I don't want anybody to go through an experience like he went through and I went through with him without having a basic understanding of this rite of passage, and so it's in Charlie's journey, help educate me. So this campaign is a way to develop the education needed as people go through life and prepare them for the end of life with a heightened awareness. It's bad enough to go through it, and eventually we'll all go through it together. But what makes it worse is not even understanding what's happening with somebody that you love.
Well, it's amazing. Thank you so much for opening, your heart with the audience. And I'm sure this was not easy for you, but thank you so much for turning, this is suffering, right, into a learning opportunity for all of us. So what do you envision as the role of the audience today? You explained a little bit about, the life cycle, and you're advocating for the development of those tools that will help us, better prepare for adversities. In other words, you explain the value of the circle of life and what it brings, but can you paint the picture a little bit more clearly? What are you really looking for today?
Absolutely. So let me explain. This is, really looking for, donations to help launch this educational campaign where we're able to bring on the right people to do the training. So we're planning to assemble, world-class subject matter experts, from the beginning of life, obstetricians and pediatricians, to palliative and hospice specialists at the end of life, and developing high quality educational videos. And these videos will be available on Futee TV. So we're going to develop the videos, working with these world class experts, and take these videos and put them available on Futee, and allow us to reach, the far corners of the world with this kind of information, and do it in a way that's free to the learner. Whoever has an interest in any of these topic areas, they can access this education for free. And so I wanted and obviously there are operating costs to do this, to gather the right people and to develop the educational videos and to host it on our technology platform. So there are hard costs associated with doing that, and then in order to make it free for the people, our audience, our global audience. And so that's really what the fundraising campaign is all about. It allows us to develop that content and distribute it to the people who need it the most. So there's no paywall. We're not charging for this. It's just pure education. And really the impetus here and the objective is to break down the fear barrier and enable families to be better informed and better able to advocate for their loved ones.
So Deb, you use this tagline, what you need to know. So why is that important?
There's a lot of information out there, and honestly, and I'll be the first one, because I was embarking on this path with Charlie and recognizing what I didn't know. And there's so much information available, and a lot of it is conflicting information, and there's a lot of it. And so I really wanted to focus on the fundamental information, the practical information, the things you need to know. Literally, I didn't want to have a lot of fluff and fillers. Just and I use kind of the term just the facts. Just the facts. And front and center. So, and a lot of the way that we're developing the videos, we're doing it in kind of, I'll say, bite-size snippets, if you will, no longer than 15 minutes, for example. A lot of these educational content will be delivered in kind of this 15-minute increment lessons. Each lesson will be about 15 minutes long. Why are we doing that? Because we feel that people have a bandwidth, a patience level to sit maybe for 15 minutes and watch something that's meaningful to them, get some information in a short period of time. So it has to be on point. It has to be just the facts. So we're bringing on the best of the best people to provide those facts, but doing it in a way that's easily digestible and not a lot of fluff or filler, as I call it. Just what you need to know, the facts.
Wow, that's great. So, folks, again, quick reminder, if you look at the QR code at the corner of our screen, you can just scan that, and that will connect you with SMB Digital Education with Deb Dietz and this beautiful initiative. So, Deb, we are starting to run very short in time, and I know that, every I just watched the campaign launch literally just a few moments ago, and you did such a beautiful job creating structure for every one of us to participate, people who are looking for information, the donors. It's just amazing, and I'm pretty sure that you are accepting donations on any level. But if you could just please summarize that you have some other perks in there, could you talk a little bit about the perks and describe them?
Absolutely, my pleasure. We have different tiers of giving and different value that that we're as a thank you to our donors for their contributions. And so the first donor level is at the $5,000 donor level, and for giving in that amount, we will invite you onto one of our 5 television talk shows for an interview. And so those 5 shows are either the Ask Deb About Business show, Ask Deb About Health, Hearts of Character, our Reflections talk show, which Aram is hosting today, and then our Books and Authors show. So if you're a book author, would love to interview you about your book. So you'll get to come, and those shows are broadcast on our television platforms of Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. They're also available to watch for free on the web, and also you can download the apps on the Apple App Store and Google Play. So that's the $5,000 level donation. For those donors who are giving at the $10,000 level, you'll be invited to be interviewed on one of our shows. Plus, we would like to invite you to present on your topic at one of our 5 global conferences that we host every year. So that's either our VC Latinx conference, VC Europe X, VC the Middle East and Africa X, VC Asia Pacific X, or our BRICS Marketplace Conference. And so we would, again, talk, be interviewed on our talk show, one of our shows, and also present at one of our conferences, where we typically have thousands of viewers, our virtual viewers, watch and attend our virtual conferences. And we have people typically that are coming from over 70 different countries to listen to those speakers. So it's a great opportunity for you to generate awareness about your brand, your services, and we'd love to offer that to our $10,000 donors. And then for those donors that donate at the $15,000 level, you'll benefit from the television interviews as well as the conference session speaking slots. And we'll also build a television channel for you on Futee TV. So if you're a podcaster or you have a lot of digital content that you would like to make available on the platform, we'll build a television channel for you. Again, and that's broadcast on Roku, Fire, and Apple TV. And then for those that are donating at the $20,000 level, you'll have the opportunity to be interviewed on a show. You'll be able to speak at a conference. We'll build you a television channel on Futee TV, and we will build you an online training course or a master class, which we will host on SMB's digital course platform. And that is an e-commerce platform. So it's an opportunity for you to monetize your expertise, your intellectual property, and we're excited to be able to offer that to our donors at the $20,000 level. But again, every dollar helps us develop the content, bring in the right experts, and host the content on our platform. And every dollar is greatly appreciated because it really translates. Your gift translates into impacting millions of lives worldwide. And just a final point I want to make here about, knowledge is power. And every stage of life has its own challenges. And so, with the assistance of experts, we're raising awareness of these key topics. We're going to help people better manage stress, anticipate obstacles, advocate effectively for those that we love, even those that we care for when they're most vulnerable.
All right, Deb. So we are starting to close the show for today. But do you have any final words about Charlie's legacy? What do you want to share?
Wow, I he taught me a lot. I was his wife for 40 years, and he taught me a lot. And I didn't know a lot, and so and I was kind of on the job training, if you will. But I want his life to have meaning. It of course has meaning to me and to his family. But if we can help have a positive impact of his journey through in his transition and passing away just a couple of weeks ago, so it's very raw for me. And his life will have meaning, and so he was the spark here, who gave me the idea about putting this all together and making it available to whoever needs it. So if I can help one person who have less fear, have one person who knows more so that they can be a better caregiver, or someone who needs to advocate for their loved one through their journey within the healthcare system, it's a daunting journey. And so I want to empower people to not only take care of their loved ones, but to take care of themselves. And fundamentally, Charlie's legacy will live on in the people who will benefit from this education.
And you're certainly paying it forward, Deb. This is amazing. What a journey, from cradle to grave, to courage. So the circle of life truly reminds us, education isn't linear, it's eternal. And Deb, your passion is contagious. Thank you for sharing your vision with all of us here. And to you folks who are considering helping Deb in her mission, your support isn't charity, it's legacy. So join Deb in, circling back and giving back to the community. So I hope to see you all on Futee TV. And remember, you can watch us on Roku, Fire, and on Apple TV. You can download our apps or watch online on any connected device. So, folks, it's time for us to start saying our thank yous and our goodbyes. So, thank you very much for your presence and participation in the show today. We're broadcasting via Futee TV, the home of the future on television, and you can find us on Roku TV, Apple TV, and on Fire TV. You can also find us as an app on Google Play and on the Apple App Store. If you're using the internet, your web browser is Futee.tv. I hope to see you soon. And today is a special goodbye. We will end the show with the Circle of Life video. Thank you so much. See you next time.